It's your friendly neighborhood laser lady, and if you're not making enough money with your laser-based business, let me tell you, that used to be me. Pretty much until I figured out this super simple thing on how to price your products so you actually make a profit. And I want to teach you all about it today, so let's dive right in. The psychology of pricing. Now, have you been to a movie theater lately? Theater food is notorious for some pretty ridiculous reasons. One of those reasons being the difference in price between the medium and large items that they sell. I'm sure you thought, I could eat a little bit of popcorn. You go through the line, you order a medium, and the server says to you, hey, for just 50 cents more, we can make this a large. What do you say? Do you want to size up? And you think, that's a pretty good deal. You might as well. But one thing you probably never considered to begin with was, why did you choose the medium in the first place? You probably thought the small is pretty small, and for only $2 more you can get a medium, which is reasonable enough compared to the small. That's just too small, really. Puny. The large is nearly twice the size of the medium, and for only 50 cents more, it almost feels like you're ripping them off. Might as well go for the large, even if you don't finish it. Well, the joke's on you, Sugar Plum, because as we know, the popcorn only costs a few cents to actually make as far as the popcorn kernels go. However, there are some substantial amounts of things that are being paid for by this purchase that you made, such as the labor of the employee getting you the popcorn, the utility and rent for this huge movie theater you're in. But the thing is that is all the same no matter if you get the small popcorn, the medium, or the large. So not only were you able to cover all those costs, but they squeezed an extra 50 cents out of you. And let's not even get started on how much pure profit those sugar carbonated drinks are. Either way, do you not feel like you got a good deal when they hand you a bucket 3 times the size of your head full of buttery, yummy popcorn to enjoy while you watch your movie? Do you feel duped? You're not really tricked out of anything, are you? It was only 50 cents after all. So what really is going on here? There are many different ways to psychologically sway your customers into spending a little bit more money, and the popcorn example is called decoy pricing. When you think about this type of pricing, you're going to see it all over the place, especially when you're trying to pick out like a streaming service. Do you get the add-ons? Do you do the no ads? And all of these different things, they're going to price things very strategically to try to get you where they want you to go. So the movie theater, they did it. They got that extra, not just 50 cents from me, but really $2.50 for me, because we should all recognize that the small size popcorn is really all a human should be able to consume as far as popcorn goes. But anyway, hold on to that little bit of knowledge. Let's learn about a couple of other psychological ways pricing works. Another good one to know is called center stage pricing. It's a lot like the decoy pricing where we finagled our way up to get everyone to buy that large popcorn. So let's keep on the popcorn train. In center stage pricing, let's say the medium for this theater is the best, most profitable thing for people to buy. So what we're going to do is make the small popcorn maybe like $8. And then the medium popcorn is going to be $12, all right? Maybe that's a little more than it should be, but the way we're going to get people to spring for that medium is by making the large size popcorn $30. Even though it doesn't like make sense and you'd look at that and you'd be like, why is large so much more money? You're just gonna buy the medium. So now we got you right in that sweet spot where they want you to go. Even if you think you're not susceptible to this psychological pricing, one thing I know you've seen and understand is called charm pricing, and that is when something is $10, but they mark it as $9.99. Obviously, that's 10 bucks. I always round it up in my head, but at the same time, it does just sound a little bit better because it's not quite $10, even though it is. And there's other interesting ways of pricing things like that called odd-even pricing. It's very similar. Odd of the odd-even pricing is like when you go to Walmart and something is $17.47. It makes you think, knowing what we know about charm pricing, oh, it's not even, $17.99, it's $17.47. That's way less, Math, I can't even do that quick in my head, so I'm just gonna go ahead and buy the item. The even pricing is usually more for luxury items or like a restaurant that's very chic and there's candles and flowers on every table. They might have, instead of like a shrimp appetizer being $14.99, it is $18. So you seem to be getting something more ritzy because they don't bother with all those cents. We have just one straight even number. That's how I usually like to price things, especially when I'm doing like live shows and selling events. I don't want to be messing around with like one of those change dispensers, like here's your 13 cents back. It's just easy to be like, oh, 10 plus 15 plus 10, boom, 35 bucks. Here you go, thank you very much. So there's a lot of different ways to consider pricing your products, but where do we even start when it comes to how much to charge for something? The necessary mind shift for pricing your handmade products. Now, there is a very serious mind shift that needs to take place to differentiate yourself from a crafter to an entrepreneur. And that, simply put, is whether you are just charging enough to cover the cost of your project or charging enough to do that and to pay all your real life human bills. Here's a great example. So just last Christmas, there was a craft show at my local rec center, and it was to support retirement community activities and such things. So needless enough to say, it was packed with grandmas. They are my favorite people in all the land, and there was a lot of crocheted things and cute little crafts and odds and ends and baubles to be bought. And I want to show you what I got. Let me grab it. Okay, here it is. So what I got was this cool towel that came on this towel holder that is handmade. It has a little cap button, love that. As well as this pot holder. I think this is like a trivet. I could put a hot pot on this. I love it. All of these things. You know how much I paid for this entire set? You probably can't guess because it was ridiculous. She wanted $6 for all of this. She made this with her hands. This took her time and planning and effort and pairing of colors, all of these things. It was a steal. I bought it in a heartbeat. Not just because teal and cats are two of my favorite things, but what a deal, right? Oh my gosh. But let's say this nice old lady who I want to be best friends with wanted to make a living doing this. Let's assume of the $6, it costs $2 for her to produce all of these things. That's a $4 profit, right? Now, how much do you want to make in a year? Let's say $40,000 a year. So how many of these towel sets would grandma need to make $40,000 a year? She would need to make 10,000 sets of these in order to make that amount of money. And that will obviously cover all of the costs and things, which is great. But 10,000, that's over 193 sets she will need to have successfully sold a week in order to just make $40,000 a year. So what we really need to do to differentiate ourselves from a crafter and a business person is thinking about our costs like that. I wish grandma could be successful with that. I think her hands would fall off if she had to make almost 200 of these a week, and then we can't high five grandma anymore, and that's unacceptable to me. So I would have gladly paid, not even joking, $15, maybe since it was the holidays, $18, no joke, for this entire set. That's the kind of value that you want to be seeking in your customers. Do you know who your customers are? If you don't quite know yet, once you figure that out, pricing is going to get easier. So, who even is your customer? Please hold as my cat gets absolutely in the way. Everyone's gonna see your big tummy. Value lies in the eyes of the beholder. Now, to be honest, I am a super cheap person. I pinch my pennies, I clip those coupons, I grow my own food, I go thrifting, all of those things. But if I find something that means something to me, I'm going to pay up for that. Just like there's people out there who maybe clip coupons too, but they just love handbags. That's their thing. So they're willing to clip coupons for a couple months so they can buy that $800 Coach handbag. Just like there's a lot of rich people out there that are willing for some reason to buy a dress that's worth more money than most people make in a year that looks like a freaking trash bag. Now I know what you're thinking. Wow, it's fabulous. It's straight out of the Zoolander derelict fashion line. And yeah, I'm sorry to say it's sold out, but that just really goes to show that people are going to pay money for something that means something to them. This can be as simple as maybe focusing on a niche, which is just like a narrowed down group of people like cat moms or gamers, and figuring out products that you are able to produce that might spark some sort of emotion in them that's going to make this connection. But how do we know exactly how much something should even cost? Pricing products so you can actually make a living. That's really what it comes down to, right? We just want to make a living doing this silly little passion of ours, and there's nothing unreasonable about that. The one thing we need to consider before we whip out a calculator is this: what skill or specialty do you possess in order to make your products unique? Now, if you're watching this, there's a good chance that you have a laser. If not, you probably possess other creative skills to make your products. But lasers in particular, not a lot of people have a laser. Not a lot of people even know what a laser is, let alone how to create files for it and make these awesome products that we can make. And we need to be able to understand that we can charge a little bit more because of this very special skill that we have. Just like, here's a good example. The other month I had to replace the spigot faucet on the outside of my house, even though the parts, I bet maybe $20, $25 tops. You know how much I had to pay for that? $350. So you get to charge a little bit more for something that not everybody can do. Now, keep that in mind when we jump into things that we should consider when breaking down your product price. All right, here's that math we've all been waiting for, as well as that super simple thing I mentioned at the start. Let's use these corn cob earrings as an example. The breakdown of the cost to produce, such as the acrylic and packaging, is just around $1.50. The complicated way to add to this would include an hourly breakdown like $20 an hour, which is about at that $40,000 a year range. I can then calculate the cost for electricity, average online sales fees, cost of my workspace compared to mortgage, and blah, 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 blah. Or ask yourself, how much do you want to make in a year? Let's bring up that $40,000. How many corn earrings could you make in a week? Obviously, you'd probably making other designs, but let's just focus on the corn. I bet I could make 10 a day, that's 50 a week. So $40,000 a year translates to about $770 a week. Let's divide that by 50 corn earrings and we get $15.40. Now adding that onto the $1.50 for materials, I could sell these for about $16.90 or $17. And thinking about what we've learned with psychology pricing, I actually do sell these at shows for $18. But these cost me 50 cents, but I sell those for $12. And these cost me maybe $2, and I sell them for $28. So which formula do we choose? The answer is none. There is no such thing as the ultimate product pricing calculator. That's the super simple thing. The only wrong way to price your products is too low. You have talent and you have a skill and you deserve to make a decent amount of money. Don't price your things too low. It will diminish the value of your talent. If you price things too high, allow customers to try and haggle you. If you keep getting the same price from multiple people, that's a good sign as to what range your customers are looking for. Make connections between your products and your customers, and anytime you find your winning product, add a couple bucks to it. Before you know it, you could be making twice as much as you were initially hoping for. Never give up, never surrender. To sum it up, it really is just so hard to price things in it. We all have our own calculations. You might disagree with me entirely. I would love to know how you like to price things, and is that working out for you? If you're struggling with making money in your business, it very well could just be that you're not charging enough. And it could be a couple of other factors. That's why I made this entire video that if you haven't seen yet, I suggest giving it a watch and seeing if there isn't other ways that we can perfect your product so it sells. Otherwise, I'll catch you in the next one. Thanks for watching. Happy crafting.